Hi there, welcome to GrainTV. It's Thursday, November 19th. We had a rare positive close in the grains today. Let's take a look at the grain edge trading platform and see where we ended up. In Chicago, corn was up 2.5 cents while beans was up 2 1/4, and wheat was a leader to the upside, gaining 7.5 cents. Some of the news out this morning: Ukraine said that they were going to limit their wheat exports in the current marketing year to 16.6 million metric tons. This is in response to what seems to be a potentially short crop in 2016. So the government there has decided to restrict exports. Unfortunately, this is not much of a restriction. USDA has them pegged at 15 million metric tons of wheat exports for the year. So restricting them to 16.6 is not a big deal for current market situations, but I guess it is somewhat favorable to think that the Ukrainian government is at least concerned enough about their next year's crop to be limiting the potential export business this year. In other news, Argentina said that their soybean acres is going to be higher than last year, up to 20.6 million hectares versus 19.8 million hectares last year. And then the other thing that was sort of going on in the market was a nice drop in the dollar, the US dollar losing about 0.75%, which is off of where we saw the highs about 2 days ago after the issues in France. We've seen the US dollar rally about 6% in the last month, and that is obviously taking its toll on U.S. competitiveness in the export market. Speaking of exports, let's take a look at USDA's export sales for the week. For once, we saw all three grains beating analyst expectations, a rarity in the market environment we've been in. In corn, we had 779,000 metric tons versus expectations of 500 to 700. Beans coming in well above expectations as well at 1.797 million metric tons versus 700 to 1100 million or 700 to 1100,000 metric tons. And then wheat also coming in well above expectations at 722,000 metric tons. Unfortunately, none of this news really drove the market to any sort of serious bullish response. We did get a nice bump up in the overnight session going into the break as a result of this news, but literally we could not hold much of those gains, especially in the case of corn and soybeans. Wheat did manage to close with a nice 8-cent gain. Let's take a look at the daily wheat chart on the Grain Hedge trading platform, and you can see that Dees wheat in Chicago has been pretty range bound. We're now at the low end of this range, down around the 480 mark. We bounced off of that today on this news, but we continue to be fairly range bound between 530 to the upside and 480 to the downside. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the dollar continues to move lower, whether we continue to get export business. We did have some regular deals done with Japan that were announced. We saw about 110,000 metric tons of Japanese purchases of U.S. Food grade wheat, which was positive. But again, we need an ongoing storyline, if you will, of export business coming to the U.S. before this market can seem to find its way out of these tight trading ranges. That's all we got on GrainTV. Join us on Friday for the market wrap-up.